Powered by the Montana Television Network. This is the Noon News from Montana's news leader.
A very good Thursday afternoon, and thanks so much for joining us here on the Noon News. I'm Samantha Sullivan. A Kalispell man missing since last week has been found dead. 29-year-old Brad Becker was reported missing by his family. Sheriff Brian Hayno says Flathead Search and Rescue and Two Bear Air found Becker several miles from his vehicle off a Forest Service road near Marion on Wednesday afternoon. Hayno says Becker appeared to have died as a result of hypothermia, but the official cause of death remains under investigation. Becker's golden retriever puppy, who was with him, was found alive near his body. Billings police responded to the area near the Yellowstone County Courthouse downtown this morning after a man was discovered passed out, covered in blood, with a gun at his side. Police say it started with the report of a break-in at a nearby beauty supply store around 7:30 this morning. At the same time, another call came in for a report of a transient male refusing to leave a downtown building. When police arrived, they found the man passed out with the gun next to him. Things escalated and the man was eventually taken into custody and later transported to the hospital. After further investigation, it was determined the gun was actually a pellet gun. Police also determined the blood came from the cuts the man received while breaking into that beauty store. And a suspect is behind bars after leading officers on a chase through Billings last night. It began shortly after 11 o'clock when officers received a report of a pedestrian being struck and a female being forced into a vehicle. Officers attempted to stop the vehicle, but the driver fled, leading them on a short chase before crashing. The driver was taken into custody. Detail on the female's condition, damages from the crash, the suspect's name, and possible charges have not yet been released. And after 10 hours of negotiation, a hostage situation at a Butte bus station ended with the suspect surrendering. The incident began on a Jefferson Lines bus traveling between Billings and Missoula. A man armed with a handgun ordered the bus to stop in Butte. The man then ordered everyone except for one passenger off the bus, and the standoff began. Butte police say the man also claimed to have some kind of explosive device on the bus. Heavily armed police officers took up defense positions around the bus, and the local SWAT team also was called to the scene. The suspect held the passenger hostage for about 3 hours until he finally released him. It all came to an end around 9:45 last night when officers fired a chemical agent into the bus that forced the suspect out. No gunshots were fired, the suspect surrendered, and he was immediately arrested. And now we'll turn things over to Ed in the Weather Center. Ed, a big change from yesterday in some parts of Montana, a little bit warmer.
That's for sure. As we take a look across the country for today, take a look at the temperatures that have really started to move over into the eastern portion of the country. -11 Minneapolis right now, Chicago at -7. A lot of the colder air over towards New York and Boston as well with additional wind chills. But across our region, we're looking at temperatures considerably warmer than they were yesterday. It's 31 degrees warmer in Rapid City right now than at noon yesterday. Billings is 9 degrees warmer, and all across the west we're seeing a lot of those numbers that are pushing upward. Same thing across Montana. Right now, Jordan, 26 degrees warmer than we were at this time yesterday. Take a closer look at the forecast details coming up.
All right, thanks, Ed. Family members of missing and murdered Native Americans traveled to Helena to advocate for a package of bills intended to help address the crisis. MTN's Jonathan Ambarian looks at some of that proposed legislation.
On Wednesday, people from around Montana gave emotional testimony about how they've been affected by what they call an epidemic of missing and murdered Indigenous people, many of them women and children.
It's a crisis, and we're reaching out to you guys now, asking you guys for help.
Many of those in attendance wore red, a color that has come to symbolize missing and murdered Indigenous women. Representative Ray Peppers of Lame Deer is sponsoring 2 bills in a package of legislation designed to help resolve these cases.
And they're asking for our support as legislators to step up for them and look for justice.
One of the proposals is House Bill 21, known as Hannah's Act. It would create a missing persons specialist in the Montana Department of Justice to work closely with other agencies on missing persons cases. The bill is named after Hannah Harris, a Lame Deer woman found murdered in 2013 after being missing for 5 days. Her mother, Melinda Harris Limberhand, was among those testifying for the bill.
We need somebody to come in and help us out. I'm trying to do my part also by standing up and speaking for the people who have lost their loved ones.
Another bill, House Bill 54, would require law enforcement agencies to open a report without delay when someone is reported missing, and add those reports to a national crime database as soon as possible. Paula Castro Stopp's daughter, 14-year-old Henny Scott, was missing for 3 weeks before her body was found.
If these limitations are put in place, I believe my daughter would have been found alive.
After the hearing, more than 100 people gathered in the rotunda for a rally to highlight the issue of missing and murdered women. Family members then joined Governor Steve Bullock for a news conference. Those who came to testify say they'll do whatever they can to make sure this issue isn't forgotten.
We are the voice, and we will not be silenced anymore.
In Helena, Jonathan Amberian, MTN News.
The committee also heard a bill that would allow tribal court convictions for domestic violence to be counted as prior offenses for sentencing purposes. They did not take immediate action on any of the proposals. And the heat is on for lawmakers hoping to avoid another government shutdown in just a couple of weeks. A 17-member bipartisan panel was announced last week shortly after President Trump signed off to end the 35-day shutdown. Montana U.S. Senator Jon Tester is one of the members of that bipartisan committee. Both parties believe they need more border technology, staffing, and overall security. But as Tester told MTN's Russ Riesinger, the idea of a wall still divides lawmakers.
Well, I think that a wall might be a part of the equation. A fence might be a part of the equation in the end. I think that's part of the negotiations. I think we also have to look at the cost and not make the American taxpayer use them like an ATM machine. So I think that there is a possibility the end result may have some wall. It may have some additional manpower. It may have some additional technology. But how that's broke down at this point in time, I really can't say, Russ. That's going to be part of the conversation moving forward and part of the compromise.
President Trump was quoted as saying that he puts the odds of lawmakers reaching a deal at less than 50%. Senator Tester tells MTN he thinks the chances are much better than that. And Governor Steve Bullock will deliver his final State of the State address tonight at the Capitol. Governor Bullock's final term in office ends this year, so 2019 is his final regular legislative session as governor and his last opportunity to deliver a State of the State address. The speech gets underway at 7 p.m. in the House chamber. It will likely catalog the highlights of Bullock's time in office in his view and make a pitch for key parts of his proposed state budget. Republican Senate President Scott Sales of Bozeman will deliver the GOP's response to the governor's speech shortly after he's finished. The governor's speech will be streamed live on MTN stations all across the state. Well, coming up here on the noon news, a deadly winter storm continues to plunge temperatures to historic lows in parts of the country. We'll have the latest on that, but first, much of Montana was spared from those well below freezing temperatures, but the cold isn't gone for good. Ed has the full forecast right after the break.
Watching MTN News with Samantha Sullivan, Storm Tracker weather with Ed McIntosh, and Farm and Ranch News from the Northern Ag Network. This is the noon news on Q2, Montana's news leader.